Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Just want to give a big shout out to everyone going to the AO retreat this weekend. I am sorry I will not be able to make it, but it sounds like it's going to be a fantastic time. So hope you guys have fun, and I'll see you next month, hopefully. So I have quite a few questions here, so we'll get right at it. The first question is coming in from Gabor. Gabriel writes, how can I start figuring out what processes to develop and how many people to hire so that we're not overly dependent on any one particular employee? Very good question. A little background here is our business is currently doing $1 million a year in revenue. Good job. We have 3 partners who all actively work in the business. Good. 7 employees and a lot of contractors we work with on a project-by-project basis. Also good. We have also outsourced some of our processes. For example, a fulfillment center that handles shipping orders from our e-commerce store. Everything works well when everybody's at their desk, but things start to get difficult when you remove any one person because of vacation or sickness. If it's a key employee that falls out for a couple of days, an entire process might completely stop for that duration, and the employee needs to play catch up when they return. I'm looking to make our company less dependent on any one person, but hiring backups for everybody is not financially feasible. I'm thinking we can make an additional 1 to 2 people work, but what do they do when the number one person for the job is not out sick or on vacation? So this is the get hit by the bus theory, right? Where you don't want to be completely dependent on someone and be, up the creek if somebody were to get hit by a bus and sort of get out of their day-to-day operations and routine. You don't want to be susceptible to that. So my suggestion, number one, I am not the particular expert in automation. However, Dan Abate in the mentorship group is all about that, and I think he would be a great resource to really help you evaluate your business currently, where it's at, and if there's any opportunity to take the human element out of your process, right, to kind of create this automation. And so I think, you can certainly open up this conversation to your fellow colleagues and your team to see, what their roles and responsibilities are on a day-to-day and what makes their jobs difficult or what could make their jobs easier, and if there is a technology or some automation process that can kind of solve the human element. Unfortunately, in many businesses today, companies can rely on technology to sort of remove that human element, which could, sounds like something like your business could really benefit from. But without knowing the entire details of each of the particular roles and responsibilities, it will be really tough right now to kind of pinpoint what that automation could look like. But again, I would evaluate what your systems and your processes are right now, where you can refine those, open it up to the team, get their input, but also, really lean on Dan, reach out to Dan, and I think he has some really good expertise in this and trying to maximize small teams and automize particular areas of growth. So that would be my suggestion for you. Sorry I couldn't help more on that, but I think you have a good resource within the team. Okay, so Sebastian is the next question. His question is, which is the best way to get commercial contracts or clients? Little background here is I have a cleaning company. I started by providing residential services, but I knew I wanted to target the commercial market, like after construction cleanings, building cleaning management, big company offices cleaning, etc. I've tried cold calls, showing up, and little contracts, but I wonder which would be the best way to get hot prospects or attract them. Well, listen, I think step one is pretty good in terms of cold calling, right? You definitely need to set up a sequence in terms of, what your outreach looks like, and whether that's you handling a bulk share of that responsibility or bringing on an appointment setter to kind of increase your net of your outreach. I mean, it's just a numbers game at that point. So, the more outreach, the more conversions you're going to have. So I'd really look at, what you're doing now and maybe open up that scale and if you are in a position to bring on someone from an appointment setting standpoint, that could be a particular option. It sounds like too a good strategy for you is to really think of channel partners for your business. So if you think about tangential businesses that aren't directly related to cleaning services, but have a sort of tangential connection to how you would get a cleaning contract, right? That could be, as you stated, the home builders, companies that are in the construction field that you're looking to get these bigger contractors. So, maybe expand your network of thinking of channel partners, of people that can, or companies that can sort of roll you into their services potentially as an offering, or at least make those connections. So try to think bigger in that realm, in terms of, instead of going right to the source, think of maybe, again, those tangential channel partners that could help. And then also, with a service such as that, you definitely maybe look into a mailing program and getting flyers distributed, and obviously a digital campaign, whether that's social media. I think you have great resources here within the group that can help with that. But you just definitely want to get your services out to as many eyeballs as possible as a way to kind of find those bigger contracts as well. All right, Josh, next question from Josh Cortez. How often should someone follow up with a referral partner? Background on the question: I'm asking this because I am a business loan broker. I'm trying to get a company to sign a referral contract, but they have not yet already called 3 touch points in times I followed up. So basically you're trying to get this partner program off the ground. They're not being very responsive. A little tough without too much detail, but number one question is, are you looking to incentivize them with this referral? What does that structure look like? And, potentially what you can do to sort of get them, more actionable is just put an expiration date as to when they would qualify, for example, or when you're offering this referral program. So if you can try to tie incentives to a deadline, sometimes that can be effective. It's, a strategy that we try to deploy on case-by-case situations. But I think once you kind of light that fire and provide a sense of urgency or a competitive nature, right, where, if you offered this service to them, that they were uniquely qualified to be a part of that program, say, hey, it's not going to last forever because you're going to, find another partner that can take that benefit. So pretty tough without knowing all the details, but, think of, how you're incentivizing them, and sort of put an expiration or a timeline, or at least just kind of move them out of your pipeline and just find someone else. So I hope that helps. All right, next question is from Tiffany Rush. Question she asked is, how do I develop centers of influence in my business? Background on the question is, I am a new real estate agent, and I've heard developing centers of influence will build your business by having the right kind of people to surround yourself with. Obviously, right? And that's the core fundamental here of AO, and working with mentors and surrounding yourself with the right people that can expand your network. So I think you're off to a good start being in the group, obviously, and then taking that into your day-to-day work life as well. So one of the things that we try to do here at my company is what we call the sphere of influence, which is slightly different than what you're saying, but similar in the sense that what you're looking to do with this sphere of influence is go through your current network and literally ask for introductions or networking opportunities, or product services that maybe that person may not need directly, but they can refer you to another opportunity or another person that could use your services, right? So that sphere of influence philosophy has really helped us over the last few months. It's something that we've implemented over, pretty new in terms of a operational day-to-day thing for my business. But as far as the real estate world, again, not a realtor, not in that space, but I understand the networking opportunities are pretty far and vast. And, whether you're looking to join local or regional associations of realtors, getting up, maybe being a part of a committee of some sort where, you can raise your profile in that community. So once you're sort of rubbing elbows, if you will, with others that are like-minded and in those communities, your network can really expand from there. So I think you're on the right path, and think of that sphere of influence as well, where it may not be the person you're asking, but someone in their network as well for some help. So next question is coming from Stephen Cox. At what point do I give up on a highly profitable sale? Background of the question is I have a customer I've done signs for before, and at the point of doing those signs, inquired about other signs on the property. Since then, I've given the proofs and prices and have not heard anything back. During the winter months, he is less prone to be in the office and he is with his family, but I have sent multiple emails and left messages with his secretary. When do I give up on a sale and stop trying to contact him? Don't you love that? That's really frustrating. I think we've all been there where, we've spun up proposals or, put together a scope of work and, you had someone on the line, so to speak, and then they just kind of ghost. It's a very frustrating part of the sales process. And, something that I like to tell my team is, when we're in those situations, all we really want is to get to an answer, right? Whether that's a yes or a no. And as weird as this sounds, sometimes a no is just as good as a yes because you at least know, right? And then you can kind of plan around your approach with getting a firm no. But when you're caught in limbo, that's really tough and it's frustrating. So some of the strategies that we've used in the past is to really put the responsibility on the client to answer your question, right? And I just spoke about incentives and timelines. And so, what we try to do when we sort of are losing a client, or maybe they weren't really interested, right? And it's not a priority any longer. You just want to get to that answer. And so strategies such as, hey, if I don't hear from you by X, we're going to have to reschedule or take you out of our production queue, which is going to delay any opportunity for you to hit your targets from a deadline or get your products ready. And so being able to put a time deadline on a response to move forward sometimes help because it creates that urgency. And, if it's not a priority to them, unfortunately, it's, you're just going to be caught. But, very frustrating situation to be in from your perspective because you just can't get to that answer. Another strategy is to provide a incentive, whether that's a financial or a discounting incentive by a timeline. That's something that has worked well with us in the past, whether it's, converting a closing where if it's towards the end of the month, for example, you could say, hey, we're running a month-end program. If you're able to commit by, the 30th or the 31st, you get a 3% discount or maybe another value-added service as a part of that. So I would try those strategies just to get an answer. But yeah, you just got to get to the yes or the no. It's very difficult, but there are times where, listen, if you're being ghosted, you just don't want to chase after someone that doesn't consider it a priority, so you just move on because you're just wasting time and missing out on other opportunities. So give those two strategies a shot, and good luck to you. Hopefully that goes well for you. All right, so next question is coming from Colin. Collins asks, what are some good places to look for investment? VC lists, accelerators. What exactly should I prepare to show potential investors? Pitch deck, metrics, etc. A little background on the question. Paulmate's app is an app that connects dog owners near each other like Tinder. I've had some initial traction on news spots and 10,000 downloads in 4 months. I'm working hard on branding thanks to a discussion with Sean, but need some guidance on funding and where to find it. Okay. It's I'll try to keep this concise, but there's master classes on this stuff. And so, with apps, right, the number one thing that, investors, or if you're looking to raise money, is user acquisition in terms of how many people are using your app, right? So that's a big component. And it sounds like, 10,000 downloads in 4 months, and if they're active users, you're in a good spot, right? But no matter how many active app members you have. I don't know if you're running on a freemium model, but revenue and revenue strategy is obviously going to be a big one. And so I think the most important thing when you're ready to raise money is to show that your business model is already effective, it's already running, it's generating revenue, and then you can kind of plot out a clear path as to what this investment is going to do to accelerate that particular growth, right? But if you're pre-revenue and you're just sort of getting the app off the ground and getting users, it may be a little too soon in the realm of, it's definitely too soon in the realm of VCs. But generally, there's a progression in how companies raise money. The first one is very basic friends and family, right? So you're kind of going into your network and asking, Uncle Joe and Aunt Sally if they believe in your product and are willing to sort of invest in that. And usually that's just basic, them giving you money with the hopes that there's some type of return, but by and large, it's essentially a gift when you're working within friends and family. So that's pretty much step one. And then once you kind of build up that traction, so if the friends and family round was able to get your product off the ground, then you would seek what's called a seed investment, which carries a little bit or potentially a lot more money to it, where there's an exchange of equity, or if it's a debt structure, there's a million and one ways that investments can look. It's convertible notes, for example, but selling straight equity or a percentage of your company, where you will really need to have your organization legalized and papered up, if you will, in terms of having an operating agreement, what a cap table looks like, really getting into the down and dirty with a corporate attorney to kind of structure your business, develop amount of shares that you're willing to sell, and so on. And then obviously, if you're lucky enough to, well, I say lucky, but sometimes it could be a bad luck situation, but if you are able to get into a Series A round with a large institutional VC, that's a whole other experience. But in terms of how you're able to raise that particular money, they really look for unicorn type of returns when you're talking about a Series A round, especially in technology. But starting small, the number one thing you want to do is absolutely get your pitch deck. Well, first, it sounds like your product is up and running. Great start there. You have a product, you have a business, it has users. Don't know what your revenue situation looks like. Hopefully you are not pre-revenue and you're actually generating some level of revenue, and then you can take that information and put together your pitch deck. What you want to do there is really show what the total addressable market is, how big the market is, what problem your app solves is a big structure in terms of what these pitch decks look like, and then obviously what the financial escalation or sort of growth looks like pre-investment and then post-investment as well. But for a company like yours, I'm not sure where you are in the world or in the United States, but local communities or cities generally have what are called angel investment fairs. And so, once you have that presentation done, you could participate in these accelerator programs or angel investor programs that local communities usually organize. I mean, generally they're cities, but I think that's a good starting point to not only practice, but to really get feedback as to what the market or how the market views your product. And then from there, kind of use that as a launch pad in terms of tweaking your approach. And, those particular angel investors come from what's called family offices. So family offices are, wealthy sort of legacy wealth families that, whether it's, an older business that they've kept in their family, but a level of wealth in the family that they run these investment funds where, they seek out, anywhere from, say, $20,000 to $200,000, maybe even up to $2 million, where they look for startup companies to invest in. And, these are family-run offices, but they're the ones that tend to be a part of these angel investment fairs, as well as other smaller VCs that aren't, like these Silicon Valley type of companies that are looking to, find the next Uber or Facebook or something along those lines. So, this I could take up more time here, but I want to get through the other questions. But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. I can talk to you a little bit about my process. But those are the fundamentals of what you're going to look for in sort of raising money. And again, any investor is going to look for that revenue, what kind of money that you put in, how much you're sort of into the business as well. But don't think that just because you have a good app or a good idea that you're just going to find some money and you didn't put any financial resources into it, because that's a big red flag from an investor standpoint. They want to know that you actually have skin in the game financially, as well as operating and making sure that their investment is going to be safe and or going to create a return that they're looking for. So good luck to you. Cool app, good idea, absolutely. All right, another question from Josh. Am I being lazy? Background, I get more work done working remotely at Panera Bread or in the car in my home office that's in my room. My room is small, but the windows are small. I can't see nature. My office desk is in my room, but so is my bed. I seem to get more work done when I'm able to stare at nature when I'm in the car or I'm at a Panera Bread. Is there a way to set things up to be more productive? Yes, absolutely. The number one thing, and this, I think COVID has really enlightened this in, the work from home environment, but mindset is such a powerful influence on your productivity, on where your environment is and sort of where your head is when you start your work day, right? I make the joke that, I'm not a work from home type of person. God bless people that have that ability. I just struggle with keeping my mindset in a position where, I'm home, but I'm running a company and, I just don't, I feel out of place. It's, I joke and I say, I don't drink beer at the gym either, right? It's, I try to keep separate, church and state separated in that end. But, people work in all different scenarios and people based on their sort of cultural index and how they work. If you're introverted, working from home and isolated, that could work for you and you can be a top performer. And I have no qualms against that. It's just what works best for you. It sounds like based on, if you're worried about your motivation and your sort of zest for nature, my suggestion is maybe you start your day every day with a walk. Just get out of the house, and exercising is a great way to sort of prime the pump, and it is the number one antidepressant motivator and everything in between, right? So getting moving each day is going to help you with your mindset in terms of motivation. It'll connect you with nature to a degree, and then it'll help you, find that resource or that location that you feel like you can work best in. So I wouldn't beat yourself up in terms of not being able to work out of your room or not feeling comfortable, because that's totally fair. Everyone has their workflows and habits that work best for them. And so I, for one, need every day my walk to the office, get out of the house and outside of exercising, but really getting in that mindset that I'm here to do a specific job and task and maintain a role. So only you can determine that, but it sounds like you have a pretty good understanding of who you are and how you work best, and so just continue down that path. But in terms of motivation and being lazy, just get outside, get some exercise, and even if it's just a walk, but really try to start your day that way, and there'll be some positive results for sure. All right, next question. We have back-to-back from Quaid here. So the question he asks is, should initial inquiries be personalized or scripted? Well, background, I'm currently looking to expand my network, both clients and suppliers. I'm wondering if it's necessary to custom make each email for each recipient. I feel like a scripted approach will streamline the process. However, I don't want it to come off robotic. For example, there are 5 kitchen suppliers on my radar. Would love to know the best way to curate those relationships. Good question. So back to the automation comment earlier. When it comes to sales and a CRM, our company uses HubSpot. And what HubSpot does, or what it allows you, and I'm sure other platforms like Salesforce or Pipedrive can do things similar, is you can kind of find that hybrid of that personalized outreach that is also automized, right? And so there's a process called sequences in HubSpot where you can craft a tailored message to a particular vertical. So if they're all kitchen suppliers, you can craft one message that all, feels like it's coming to them because their name would be addressed. But what you can do with a sequence is you can draft 3 emails at once, your first outreach, your second outreach, and then your third outreach, and then automate that over a time schedule. So without, you putting in any effort, you can set that schedule that your initial outreach goes out. Maybe it's a few days later, the second one goes out. And so now it feels like, and then when you're writing those, you can kind of, obviously write it with a personal touch to it in knowing that it's your second outreach, right? And knowing it's your third outreach. So if you can automate that, it's a good blend of being personal because you are targeting the same type of customer, so you can get that message. And then obviously it's automized in terms of being able to send those repeat emails out. So I would look into that. I'm not sure if you're using that, but HubSpot seems to be, and I think the group offers a discount too. So definitely explore those. All right, so Quade's second question is, when would you consider protecting IP, intellectual property? As I create more forms and systems to enhance my services, I've had the thought about copyright and trademarks. I feel as though all those forms I'm making will set me apart from competition. I would love to be able to license out all these systems and processes when I hit that level. That way, I can help others operate better companies while getting another revenue stream. Not sure if this is common practice with small business, but figure it's worth an ask. Thanks. Great question. Trademarks and IP is very tricky in terms of how enforceable they are. I think many small businesses, me included, when I started off in technology, I wanted to patent everything, I wanted to trademark everything, and I would certainly consult with an attorney, a trademark attorney, is that the enforceability, if there is an actual conflict and when that arises, how rock solid or how firm the protection is before you kind of go out and spend money and resources to try to protect that, right? Like the conflict there is going to be the enforceability of, if there is a similar system that is already pre-existing, you go down this path, you spend all this money to try to trademark it, and then you realize it's really not enforceable because there's a lot of strategies that folks can just kind of skirt the difference between intellectual property and trademarks. But I'm a big fan, especially when it comes to your business logo and design elements. You do want to register, you want to trademark that because as your brand grows, you want some protection on that end. Even your systems, it could be a good opportunity, but it really comes down to where your financial resources are because, many times it's not much. If $500, $1,000 to do the research, you hire an attorney to research the trademark, draft the application, and then work with the patent office to sort of secure that, can be pretty streamlined. Sometimes it's more difficult without knowing the details, but I would just evaluate what type of resources you have and are willing to spend into that, and then really be honest with yourself to think about how protected these actually can be in the event that you do run into a conflict, and is it even worth trying to protect when it's really not? My experience when it comes to patents in particular is, we can have design patents, right, on devices, but all it would take is an extra wheel or a different design element to kind of for a competitor to change that would avoid any conflict. And to the layperson, devices could look the same, but from a legal perspective, they're different, right? Utility patents are really the ones that are really rock solid. Trademarks and other IP can get challenging. I do have an anecdote though in that example, in that my previous company logo were called MVP Interactive, and we had a very distinct lettering or font for MVP. One Sunday night, I was watching the HBO show Hard Knocks, and my phone just started blowing up because there was a robotic tackling dummy, right? So I think it was Dartmouth University or a professor or an engineer came up with this tackling dummy that was like on wheels. It was remote controlled. But the logo said MVP, and it was MVP dummies, right? No one saw the dummies part, but they just saw the letters and the font. And, 4 or 5 friends had called me in the middle of the night saying, hey, is that your product? Because we're a technology company. And so we had a trademark on our logo, MVP Interactive. It was a registered trademark. We had the slogan down, and that was protected as well. And so, I took a screenshot of the television, I sent it to my attorney, and, sure enough, it was literally one-to-one, same font. They were MVP dummies, I was MVP Interactive, so that byline there was a little bit different. But, what I essentially did was I found I'm not looking to infringe. Can you help me redesign my logo so there's no conflict there? And so we didn't necessarily do that. We gave him some suggestions to kind of make some tweaks. But because we both were in technology, we both produced it for professional sports teams, there is a likelihood of confusion. And so that was what protected us. And again, this didn't need to go to court or anything. It was just a conversation that essentially worked itself out. We have since changed our logo completely and started a new trademark. So to my point, there are levels of protection and the things that, have to happen where they are enforceable is where the tricky part is. So I would just, before you just start spending money and trying to trademark everything or patent everything, just think about the enforceability. That's a long-winded way of answering your question there. So good luck to you. All right, Cody. How do I get above barely enough? It seems that when I was an employee, my paycheck was barely enough. Now that I'm a business owner, I'm making more money in the business than I've ever seen, but still barely making it. Why is this? Well, look in the mirror. Sean is big on mindset, and we're all as business owners responsible 100% of our successes and failures at the end of the day, right? And so if you're starting to see a common trait, maybe there's a subconscious element within yourself that you don't press yourself or like you get complacent or you're comfortable with a certain level. But if you're ready to break out of that, which is great, everyone has an opportunity for growth and change. I think what you need to do is really evaluate where your business can seek the most growth with maybe bringing on another employee. And this is where hiring can really influence and change the trajectory of your business. Assuming that you are revenue and sort of generating money, do you have the opportunity to hire, whether it's a salesperson, because generally sales is what we all need to grow our businesses, but can you make a key hire, even if it's part-time, that can kind of get you up and above, that complacency or at least that level that you want to break out of. And so you'll just need to evaluate your business and really think about, what's that missing point that can help you and take the responsibility 100% off of you in terms of you're only one person, right? And whether you're working 10 hours a day or 80 hours a week, there's only going to be so much you as one individual can do. So bringing on someone else can kind of help that growth and take a look at that. But good on you that, you've identified a cap and you're motivated to change that and get your mindset straightened out and motivated. So just definitely look to bring on that person that can really help you grow. All right, final question here is from Grant. Grant asks, what is the ideal CRM software for us to track a setter's lead who's done a call, who hasn't, whether they converted or need to follow up, also best financial qualification strategy? I'm not sure what that means, whether it's like, how do you qualify a customer? Anyway, little background, he has an online low back rehab coaching program, hiring telemarketers, salespeople want to track data and sales processes. As mentioned, I'm a big fan of HubSpot. HubSpot does pretty much soup to nuts everything that you're looking for from a tracking and monitoring and performance standpoint. It really provides a lot of automation. It can warehouse all of your sales collateral. It makes creating landing pages and videos and sort of any sales efforts pretty seamless. And you put the responsibility on the particular salesperson to sort of hit the right drop-down menus and check the right boxes to sort of track their performance. But it integrates with many email systems, so you can even see what the download of how many outbound emails each sales rep is doing. To my knowledge, I don't know if they integrate any call logging. You can actually set, obviously, in the contact profile that you made a phone call to the individual, but it's not, to my understanding, I don't know if there's a way that you can kind of port in, your phone system to kind of automate, that outbound call as being done. But there are tabs in the contact setting that you can actually do. In terms of tracking calls, however, again, I think voice over IP networks are the best way to really track, from a technical perspective, outbound phone calls and which salespeople are doing what. Usually with voice over networks, there's some dashboard or some data profile or database that'll show what the volume of the calls are, outbound, inbound, so on and so forth. So I'd look into those two platforms if you don't have them already. But yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't know how to answer the best financial qualification strategy. But if it is intended for your prospective clientele, that's a part of the sales qualifying opportunity, right? And just understanding what their budget restraints are, or what they're looking to spend, and if your product is even within that realm. But generally, from my understanding, from my experience, giving clients options in terms of price tiers is always a helpful strategy, so they can kind of pick and choose. Because what will happen is there's a weird psychology with buyers, is if they see 3 price points, because on the initial call they'll tell you you're too expensive, but then you kind of break down, the lowest cost option won't give them all the features or whatever it is that they're looking for. They'll kind of talk themselves into paying for the higher price model, because once you get them excited about the other features and the value and the higher price system could be, kind of makes it takes the burden off of you, and they make that decision themselves. So I hope that's what you were talking about in terms of financial qualification strategy, but if not, there you go. You have a sales qualifier tidbit there. So, but yeah, so that wraps me up with the questions. So I hope this was helpful for everyone, and again, have fun at the retreat this weekend, and I will see everyone soon.